Hello everyone and welcome to PSGL here for round 3 of season 30 here in PS F6 for what will be a race around the tight and twisty streets of Monte Carlo here for the Monaco Grand Prix. I'm your commentator Jackson and alongside me is Tom.
Good evening Jackson, hello to everyone, and after the cliffhanger of a race at Silverstone, we are here on the streets of Monte Carlo, the only city in the country of Monaco, of course. The circuit which has played host to many Formula 1 events over the decades. It has that level of glamour, it has that level of popularity, and it's a driver's favourite circuit. The drivers love racing down this racetrack, and I wonder how the drivers within the virtual side of things feel about it, because even in today's cars, it's a very challenging circuit to nail.
Yeah, this track is always posing a challenge to these drivers because almost as the years goes by, it gets harder and harder to drive, whilst the cars themselves sort of obviously power steering, bigger tyres, more downforce. In that sense, they get easier to drive. The cars are getting bigger and bigger, which means these narrow streets just get narrower and narrower for these cars. So it is always a challenge for these drivers around this such a tricky circuit with walls. No matter where you make a mistake on this circuit, there will be a wall for you to hit, so you cannot make any mistakes. It really is a track where you just have to be perfect. And at the end of the day, we could see the driver that ends up winning or maybe getting a podium in this race just being a driver who, not necessarily a driver who qualified that high up the grid, but just survived the race, kept their nose clean, didn't put it in a wall, and they may well be the person to surprise us today and get themselves into a strong position. And it's things like that sort of ability to keep your nose clean that is always important, but around Monaco that is just taken to another level.
So we've got 6 regulars who are not in for tonight. They are Chiquito, Yagdashan, Itano, Charlie Moon, Stradici and Lewis. Only 2 of those drivers have been substituted for tonight. Itano was replaced by Trosmike, who competed in the last couple of rounds in Portimao and Silverstone. The other replacement is Chuzza, who's in place of Charlie Moon in the Alfa Romeo. So Trosmike in the McLaren in place of the Tomo, and Chuzza in place of Charlie Moon in the Alfa Romeo. We've got a few cars out on circuit, including J-Sack in the Alfa Tauri and Micheletto in the Alpine, who didn't compete last week due to family circumstances or something like that, or personal circumstances anyway, whatever the case. But we're just waiting for some lap times to begin around this 3.3 kilometre racetrack. The last time it was modified slightly was in 2015 when the back was slightly moved. So that's the reason for that particular occasion. But other than that, everywhere else is pretty much the same.
Yeah, this track, it is pretty much what it was back when it started the course. As you say, there's been adjustments over the years, especially in the early years. There was some adjustments, maybe some corners added and changed. But it is still the same streets that the cars have always raced on back in the 50s and 60s. It is pretty much the same, and that's what makes it such a historic and such a memorable event every year, because it's something that you can always relate to a previous era of Formula 1, because everything else in F1 changes. The cars, the drivers, the tyres, the engines, everything changes, but Monaco is always sort of that staple on the calendar that you always know will be there, and you can always look back on the past and also look forward to the future. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. And also the fact that it brings out a different skill on drivers, so it really is a driver's track, and it'll be exciting to see who comes out on top here. Kart racer, 2 podiums from the first 2 races, and therefore leads the championship. It'll be interesting to see how he can handle this track, because as I said, it brings up a different skill in a driver. That raw pace that was so crucial at Silverstone may not work the same way here at Monaco. If you're pushing the limits hard at Silverstone, you can get away with it. You've got runoffs here, you have barriers that you're going to collide with. So it'll be really exciting to see, personally, who can rise to the top. And if kart racing come out here today and get another podium, he is really going to be sort of becoming the favourite for this championship this season. So I look forward to seeing how this one plays out.
So Micheletto fastest of all with a 1 minute 9.7. He set that on the mediums. J-Sack is second on the softs. That's not quite the representative time that we would be looking for at this stage. Vandenberg goes fastest by a tenth in the Haas. That's a good effort from him. Cameron has made a mistake on his first flying lap. He's got no front wing to his car, so he'll be trailing around back to the pits. Jonah, who wasn't around last week, has gone to the top on a 1 minute 9.0. That's a very fast lap time. I would expect to see the drivers within the 1 minute 8, those going for pole position, don't you think?
I think we could all see mid to low 8s if these drivers really get their laps nailed. I think obviously it's going to be a push, but I think some of these drivers are capable of it. Interesting to see which tyres some of these drivers have started the session on. Quite often we'll see a few drivers use the mediums for their first runs, not for any sort of strategic purpose, especially on a track like Monaco where qualifying is so important, but it's more on the basis of using that medium tyre. You just get a feeling for the track, get a feeling for the car and these conditions without having to waste the soft tyres on a run that you know probably isn't going to be very representative. But saying that, some of these lap times, in particular Jonah's up at the front at the moment, that is a very quick lap. This early in the session, he's definitely going to be in that fight for pole position.
You think so too, as Trustmite's coming around. He's not on a particularly quick lap, to be quite honest with you. I think he's focusing on just getting a banker lap in. This could be a lap actually where he's just burning off some fuel on a prep lap before he goes for a fast lap. So Trustmite over the line only with a 1 minute 11.1, but there's definitely more time to be found there for him.
Yeah, I got a few more drivers on laps now. Jake Marsh currently on board with him as he makes his way through the streets of Monaco. Going to get down into the tricky Mirabeau corner. Just holding onto that line, a bit of a slide, the rear on traction, but he gets it into the hairpin nicely. Through here, it's just really throttle application and brake application are so important, because the slow speeds means that everything is that little bit more sensitive. Sort of the tiny slide of the rear or the tiny lockup of a front, but he keeps control of the car and now sends it through the tunnel now. Such an exciting part of the racetrack, and now into the tricky Nouvelle chicane, just into the first apex, over the second apex. These cars can really send it over that apex curb there, but again they have to be careful to not invalidate your lap as he now tracks it into the swimming pool section. Such a high speed series of corners. It's a mistake, I believe. Yes, he tapped the wall in the first part and that just led him offline, a bit out of sync with the car through there, and that meant that he could not recover it into the second part of the swimming pool section and he has to back out of this lap. But it does look like he may well be going again though, so seems he got away with that one without any damage.
So Jay Marsh going for another run. Michelizzi over the line on a 1 minute 11.2 deep into Larascas on his way to completing that lap. There's a lap time on the board nevertheless. This is Davey, who is on a massive improvement in the Mercedes, 7/10 up by sector 2. His exit coming out of the Anthony Nose corner wasn't particularly great, only good enough for 6 passes on a 1 minute 9.7 for him. Kart Racer not an improvement because his lap is invalidated as he makes his way into the pit lane. So we've got Michelizzi on a lap, Jake Marsh coming through the tunnel on a fast lap, and he's exiting the tunnel right now. There is a car in front of him that thankfully stays out of the way, and Marsh is exiting the Nouvelle chicane through the fast left-hander of Tabac. Now this is the swimming pool chicanes. It's hard to tell which is the swimming pool chicane because you've got the chicane beforehand and then they've got the chicanes directly just behind the swimming pool, haven't you? So I think it's kind of difficult to sort of know which is actually the swimming pool. But anyway, Marsh is coming down the pit straight for his first lap time of the session. It's a 1 minute 9.7. He goes up to P7. Now, who else is on a fast lap? Well, Micheletto is off the pace. Michelizzi is off the pace. Lynx is on a fast lap. Cameron's on a fast lap. Brutful is on an invalidated lap. Chazza and Bottle are on fast laps in the Alfa Romeos. So we'll go to Lynx next, who's coming towards the Nouvelle chicane. Nicely done through there. Turns into that yellow curb very early, actually. That could be a bit of a pinpoint to know, actually, in terms of where the drivers actually turn in. And you can see Lynx turning too early there into the second part of the swim pool chicane, and that was enough to see his lap time invalidated. Bottle coming around the last corner then, no time yet on the board until now. What is this time going to be for him? It's going to be a 1 minute 10.3 and he goes up to P9.
Yeah, it's a good lap there. Nice bank lap to get in early.
Cameron's in the wall. Sorry to interrupt you, Jackson. Cameron has hit the wall on the exit of the swimming pool chicane, and that's the second front wing gone on that AlphaTauri, and I reckon he may well have damaged other parts as well.
Yeah, that is not what he would have wanted this early in the session. That's an unnecessary mistake. You know, if you're struggling at this point, just get into the pits, maybe fuel it a bit more, just get a few laps in, not pushing too hard, but he does not want to sort of take a breath. He is pushing so hard this early in the session. Perhaps unwise of him, especially now losing his wing, but as I was going to say, around here we speak about how sort of you can't make a mistake because you'll end up in a barrier. even if it's a corner where there is a little bit of runoff, you've got then the track limits to worry about. As we saw at the chicane, we've seen quite a few invalidations so far, so we could even see some penalties in the race. So that's going to be another element just to keep an eye on throughout this race, and it just adds to the long list of issues that drivers can have here at Monaco.
We've just seen Fruitful blatantly overshooting the Neufeld chicane. You probably felt that he was not going to be completing a good lap on that occasion. Here's Chuzzer coming out of the tunnel, heading into the Neufeld chicane. How's he go about it? He's also blatantly overshot the Neufeld chicane. Well, it just goes to show that drivers are pushing a bit too hard there, or they just haven't quite practiced the Neufeld chicane enough.
Yeah, I think at this point in the session, these guys they're knowing that if they can't absolutely nail the lap, they may as well just head over, just get the quickest route back home, because it seems they are pushing them, especially Chazza at the moment on the medium tyres. He knows he's not going to set the fast lap, so he may as well find the absolute limit. And even if that means sort of losing some time or invalidating a lap or two, he knows that, you know, with the medium tyres it's not going to be a great lap anyway, so he can really test the limits without much of a punishment if he goes over them. Of course, that goes for some corners, not all. Lots of corners around here do not have that sort of ability to just back out of them. But it seems he's being smart about where he's pushing the limits. He's only pushing the limits where he knows if something goes wrong, you can back out of it. You can find a safe route back onto the racetrack. So some smart driving if it pays off. But I mean, if always that's a big mistake. They're coming out onto the tunnel there. But I mean, the medium tyre's not looking like the tyres that Chelsea should be on at the moment. He needs to probably box us some softs just sort of get a fresh head on that car. As again, cutting the Nouvelle chicane. And just needs to pit for some soft tyres, refocus, and almost sort of start the qualifying session all over again, because it's just not working for him at the moment.
So it looks like Trasmike has had a moment on the exit of... Where has he done it? It's on the exit of Casino Square, but I think that was just to get out of the way of other drivers. Whilst you were watching what you're watching, Jackson, I saw a kart racer go up to second place. Brandenburg is coming round the last corner. He's gone into the pits, actually, so he must have made a mistake on that last run. As kart racer makes his way back into the pit lane, he's a tenth and a half behind the fastest man, that is Jonah. And could he be on course to achieve the most important pole position of the season here in Monaco? Because overtaking, as we well know, is very, very difficult to make. Jake Marsh is on the fast lap as well in the Williams. He's coming through the tunnel now. Traffic-wise, he's okay. The next man ahead of him is the Red Bull of Ischik. He's just gone through the Neufeld chicane now. So Jake should not really get held up here between now and the start-finish line. Let's see.
Yeah, chucking it in now. We saw him have some issues at this chicane earlier on in the session. Keeps it out of the barriers. Will it keep it on the track? Yes, he will. Through the swimming pool section now into Raskas, getting his way through the final corner now. Turns into Andy Nogues. Nice exit, nice and clean. DRS open. Let's see where Jake can put his car in this session. Up to 4th. That's a strong lap there from the Williams driver. But I think the fact that drivers are able to put in these lap times, but still be, I mean, on Jake's occasion there, 4 attempts off Jonah on pole, I think it shows at the moment just how good Jonah's early lap was. The fact that that lap time that was set so early in this session is still representative is incredibly impressive.
Seeing Davey pushing ever so hard, and he's invalidated this now, so no improvement from him. I'm actually surprised to see Trasmite that far down in 10th place. We've seen the pace from him in previous races, but tonight, as a reserve, it's not quite going to plan for him. Perhaps Monaco is not one of his strongest circuits. Bottle seems to be handling his situation very, very well on his lap. Half a second up by Sector 2. And could he move up the order here? At the moment, probably not. His line through Laraskas wasn't particularly great, but let's see how he gets on the pit straight now. It's going to be a 1 minute 9.7, and he goes up to P7 by 1,000 over Davey.
I'm noticing at the moment there's sort of about 9 drivers that seem to, as Fruitful goes fastest there, first driver into 108.952, great lap there for the Ferrari driver, and track acclimatization is becoming a real big part of this session at the moment. So that's certainly going to excite the battle up for pole position. But what I was going to say is that it seems that 11 drivers seem to have got a clean lap in. So Traz, Mike, Micheluzzi and Jasak all in the 11s. You'd imagine for a tier as F6, that's quite an uncompetitive lap time. So you imagine that only realistically 11 drivers have got a clean lap in this session, which out of the 16 that are racing, with only 4.5 minutes left in the session, that's an incredibly high amount of drivers yet to set a lap time. So it's going to be interesting to see if one of those guys can perhaps spring a surprise on us. We haven't really kept an eye on them because of their position at the moment. But if they've got some pace they just haven't been able to use yet, when the track's nice and grippy at the end of the session, they could well spring a surprise on us. And it sort of, when we're focusing on fruitful Jonah kart racer, we may see someone like a Micheluzzi, a Trasmike, a Cameron. They may fly up the order and get up into a top 3 position, maybe even in the fight for pole position. So I think it's typical Monaco. You can never rule out anything here, and I think that's what's going to make the end of this qualifying session so exciting.
Chaz is coming through. He took it rather cautiously through the Nouvelle chicane, unlike Trasmike, who clicked the barrier as he entered the Nouvelle chicane, hence why he backed out of his lap that he was on. But Chaz is coming through sector 2 and has invalidated his lap time. So whilst we wait for another driver to start a fast lap, I'll update you as to which driver that will be. It'll be one of the AlphaTauris, and that's JSAC. So he's the next one to watch, Jackson, for your information.
Yeah, he's making his way into turn 1 now. Getting his car ready for a fast lap up the hill. Got a little bit of traffic ahead, so we're going to have to hope they get out of the way. It's a risky place to get out of the way, is up the hill, but doing it well there was Hershey, so good job from the Aston Martin drive, but chucking it now down into Casino Square, heading down towards Mirabeau, avoiding the bump down that little mini straight, gets it in nicely on his way towards the hairpin now that's had many names in its history. Again, nicely into the apex. You can see the speed they're able to carry through there. It's very impressive. Again, staying it nice and calm through these couple of corners. You've got to keep it clean at this part of the lap. Can't really push it too hard. You've got to focus on your exit now. As they go through the tunnel, heading towards the Nouvelle chicane. Another crucial corner on this lap. You have to make sure that he doesn't invalidate going into this chicane. Nice on the first apex, chucks it over the second. Looks nice and clean there from the AlphaTauri driver. Now making their way towards to back. Gets it in a little off the apex. Almost in the barriers on the outside. But it didn't cost them too much time. Now flying over the chicane. You see they have to lift so much as they go over the swimming pool section. And again, a small mistake here from JSAC. It's not been a perfect lap. Getting it through into Anthony Nogues. DRS open. There's been a few little mistakes on this lap, so it's not going to be a great lap time. And yeah, it's only 12th place there for the AlphaTauri driver.
So JSAC flying through Loris Castles. Once again, not very good. We've seen a few drivers running a bit too deep there into Loris Castles, carrying a bit too much speed, and we've got an Alpine in the barrier there. That's Micheletto, who I think was perhaps trying to stay out of the way, but it's not exactly what you want to be doing with 2 minutes remaining. As Cameron comes through, who's yet to post a lap time at the present moment, he's coming into Loris Castles now. How's his line through here? As Kart Racer goes fastest with 1 minute 8.7. Very quick lap time there from the race winner of Silverstone.
Jonah has backed out of their lap. The driver who was on provisional pole at one point in this session has backed out now, letting cars through. Be interesting to see if there's time left in the session. At the moment, yellow flags on the track because of Jonah going slow, so can't actually see the timings. But Van der Bregg up into second there with a big improvement on his last lap, getting himself up into the 108. So 3 drivers in that range now. Jonah's going to get the car going again and going to try and get himself back into the fight for pole position here. And yeah, a few other drivers on laps. Ischik has backed off his, but the looks of things 1.6 seconds down. Cameron, he is 8 tenths down in the first sector, I believe. But yeah, let's keep an eye on these guys up at the front. Kart Racer looks like he may be on a cool-down lap here to go again at the end, but the battle for pole heating up again with Kart Racer putting in a very impressive lap time there.
Yeah, I was just going to say Hershey crashed into the barrier at Sabat, but continued, and it looks like JSAC has he stopped in the pit lane, hasn't he? I'm just looking at. Is that Jake Marsh who's just stopped at Mirabeau there? Yeah, it is. He's just, I don't know if he's done that to stay out of the way of the other drivers, but his session is all but over now. Trasmike Gownie, 13th place, I have to say. Didn't expect him to be that far down. As Jonah makes his way through the Nouvelle chicane now, keeps the car within the track limits. How does he get on in the remainder of this lap? Vandenberg comes into the pit lane, and Jonah's 2 tenths down from before, so it's not looking like he's going to be improving on this occasion, so Jonah could well be starting from 4th place on the grid, or even lower. As Ischik improved through sector 1, he's currently 5th on a 1 minute 9.2. How will he get on in the remainder of this lap? Micheletto rounding the last corner. Oh, he's hit the barrier, Anthony knows. That's that lap gone, unfortunately, for Micheletto. Now he needs to watch for Trasmike, who's coming onto the pit straight. This is going to be a massive improvement for him, but only up to 13th.
Such a close field at the moment. Trasmike with such a big improvement, but that first lap just wasn't that good, which means he's only going to get 13th on the grid here. For a driver who's been up at near the front in pretty much both of the races we had so far this season, bit of disappointment here for the McLaren reserve. So that's going to be interesting to see if he can recover anything in the race, or whether that was just where his pace was. But yeah, I believe this is it for qualifying. I think Lynx is the only person still on a flying lap, and they are on a flying lap, only a 10th down on their best in the first sector. Now as they make their way through, and they hit the wall.
Hit the ball.
And out of the session goes Lynx. They're the final driver on a lap, and for a second I thought the car wasn't going to ghost, but that is the session over, and with both Ferraris, I believe, in finishing that session with less wheels than they started with, so that's not the ideal finish for them, but luckily, of course, they will keep their qualifying positions. Here is your grid for round 3 of Season 30 here in F6. It's Kart Racer backing up his dominant performance at Silverstone by getting pole here in the streets of Monaco, with Van der Breggen lining up alongside him on the front row. Haas looking very strong there. Fruitful in a third, with Jonah set his best lap so early in the session and just could not beat it. It was just such a perfect first lap. He could not get, well, anywhere near it, quite frankly. Ischik is in 5th. Cameron is in 6th place, with Jake Marsh in 7th there for Williams. Micheletto in 8th on the medium tyres. Very strong lap there, actually, looking at that for Micheletto on the medium compound tyres. Lynx in the Ferrari in 9th place, and ADRT Bottle for Alfa Romeo rounds out the top 10 there for what is going to be, hopefully, an exciting race there, but a couple of drivers who we think may be out of position. So, I mean, what do you expect from this race? Do you think we're going to see much action? Will there be much overtaking, or is it going to be pretty much the typical Monaco train?
It could be the Monaco train, but I think race strategy is going to be king. We could even see drivers going more aggressive and gambling on the 2-stop. So if you've got drivers who start in the race on the softs, they may do, depending on the situation, if they know they're not going to complete an overcut on the first stint, let's say, going into their first pit stop, they may decide to gamble and go on another set of softs to maximise the performance of the car, if that makes sense, in order to get past other drivers. But overtaking is so difficult on this circuit, so it's going to leave you with a whole load of choices as to what to do, and it could even depend on how many cars we've got left in the race. Could it be one of those car breakers where drivers just push a little bit too hard whilst their tyres are degrading on this circuit, on a track which isn't very abrasive on tyres, to be quite honest with you? So I do expect the drivers to be pushing ever so hard during the course of this race. So we've got the formation up to come, Jackson, so it may be a time to run down on the grid and find out who is starting on what tyres.
Yes, of course, we know only one driver in the top 10 starting on the mediums, and that is Micheletto. Let's have a look now at what the drivers outside the top 10 have decided to go with here. So yes, as we said, the top 7 drivers are all on the soft compounded tyres, all the way from Kart Racer down to Jake. Micheletto on the medium compound for Alpine, their only driver in the top 10 to manage to qualify on the mediums. Then it's Lynx and Bottle behind him on the soft tyres. Davey in 11th place has decided to go for the medium tyres for the start, with Hershey on the softs, Traz Michael on the softs, J-Sack has gone mediums, Micheluzzi back onto the softs, and Shazza on the mediums there. So a bit of a split strategy there, but only 4 drivers on the mediums. Perhaps we'd have expected more outside the top 10 to go with that, but as you've said, you know, it's one of those races where it's so hard to predict the strategy because you never really know how this race is going to play out. There could be, I mean, it's Monaco, so there could well be safety cars, but equally, in this game, the safety car is very rare around Monaco, so I think it would take quite a lot to happen for a safety car to come out, but still, it's Monaco, quite a lot can happen here, and often does, so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, but I think it's going to be a near impossible to predict race. I wouldn't be surprised if you even see some people pit on lap 1, to be honest. You know, go hard to the end, just keep yourself out of traffic, and that could be a strategy that get you into a strong position, so it really is impossible to predict the strategy around Monaco, but I'm sure these drivers will be all trying to figure out what each other are doing, try and figure out a way to strategise their way into the battle for the win. But it is, of course, Kart Racer on the pole position with Van der Breggen alongside Fruitful and Jonah in the second row.
So, will Kart Racer make it 2 wins in a row, this time on the streets of Monte Carlo, which is only hosting its second round of the PSGL in the last 6 seasons, in fact. So it's going to be quite a challenge for the drivers from when the lights go out. As we wait for the last couple of drivers to make their way onto the grid, they are Micheluzzi and Chazza, and we are ready to go for the start of this Monaco Grand Prix in F6 Season 30 in the PSGL. So the car waits for the 5 red lights. Who will make it into Sunderpot first? It's lights out, and away we go. Kart Racer gets off the line fine, but even better from Vandenberg, who's going to go to the outside, but no room to make a move. So Kart Racer stays in the lead. It's Vandenberg in second place. Next, Fruitful and Jono maintaining third and fourth places. We've got an incident at the back. Ishai has gone backwards in the Red Bull, so we'll be looking to him shortly, as he's got no front wing Jackson at the moment. Kart Racer still in front with Vandenberg second, Fruitful third, Jono in fourth place, and it looks like Bottle's gone for a spin as well.
Yeah, a couple of drivers here struggling in the first few corners of this race. Ghosting, I think, has saved others from getting caught up in it. But yeah, it's Jake losing the rear end in front of the field, coming up the hill. That could easily have been a major incident with multiple cars getting taken out. Luckily, it seems that the only driver that's got any damage from it is this Jake. But of course, Bottle has also made a mistake. Cameron lost out quite a bit of time as well. I don't know if that was related or if he has any damage or not. But it's bit of drama on the opening lap here, but it is Kart Racer who controlled it, got a good enough start to lead into turn one, and from here looks set to just control the pace. He doesn't need to push too hard here. He can't push too hard. He can't risk getting a penalty at this stage. This early in the race, warnings are just something you cannot have. So Van der Brugge is going to be trying to push Kart Racer as hard as he possibly can at the moment, but he's also got Fruitful behind him, so it's not going to be an easy feat.
There's going to be a lot of frustrated drivers in this race for more reasons than one. One is potential time penalties, and two is being stuck behind the car in front. And Dave is in the pits with damage, so the mediums come off and another mediums go on. So Dave's race has taken a turn for the worse, as is for Cameron, Ischik and Bottle. So 4 drivers in the pits at the end of lap 1. Kart Racer, in contrast, still in the lead. Ahead of Vandenberg in second place. He's got off to a good start in this one. Fruitful is third, Jonah fourth, and Links up to 5th place, with Jake in a strong 6th position. Micheletto, we expect him to have a stint at the front. Can he make those mediums last? And depending on what happens with the others in regards to maybe track position, he could be a contender for the race victory, could Micheletto.
Definitely now on that sort of different strategy, it gives him options that the others just don't have available to him. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting one to see. But Kart Racer already with over a second lead. But let's see if that lasts through this part of the racetrack. Quite often we'll see some drivers take it easy in the final sector here at Monaco. It's so easy to get a warning through the swimming pool section. But it seems like Kart Racer is pushing pretty up, but he does lose a couple attempts there. But again, Van der Brugge maybe pushed too hard because he's now lost half a second to Kart Racer. And the gap is 1.5 seconds as they begin lap 3 here in Monte Carlo. Kart Racer looks set to lead this race for a little bit longer, but it could all change in a heartbeat here, as we've seen already. Links 4 positions up on lap 1. What a start there from him. I think a couple of them may have been incidents, but still 4 positions gained around Monaco is a very impressive. With Trasmike, after a poor qualifying, just avoided all the drama ahead of him, has found himself up into 8th position and gaining 5 places off the start. So yeah, he's done what he needs to do in this start. You know, when you have bad qualifying in Monaco, it's just important to avoid any incidents, because if you've already put yourself a bit down in the midfield, you cannot afford to drop yourself any further. And importantly, Trasmike has avoided any of that drama and has found himself up into the top 8.
Yeah, and Ischik's just retired. He's been in the pits for the 2nd time already, and he's called it quits. So Ischik out of the race. The race winner of Portugal 2 weeks ago is not going to be scoring points today, unfortunately. So that's his race run. Kart Racer's pulled out over a second than everyone else, so he's out of DRS range. And to be honest with you, the effectiveness of the DRS here in Monaco, there's only one DRS zone, which is on the pitch rate. It's not really that effective, is it?
It is not. I mean, around Monaco, you can either keep up with the car in front or you can't. The DRS, unlike other circuits like we have seen this season with Silverstone and Portimao, both of those tracks you can sort of gain quite a lot of lap time from just having the DRS. Whereas here, almost the dirty air and sort of just the being stuck behind another car effect through these slow speed corners means that it really doesn't make that big of a difference at all. Of course, in qualifying it does, but here in the race, if you're behind a car, you're either going to have to pace to pass them or you're not, as that's Jake Marsh, I believe, letting Micheletto through. Jake Marsh has had some tough races so far this season, had a couple of decent qualifying sessions though, but it looks like he maybe doesn't want to be in the middle of 2 cars here. Maybe feels that it's safer for him if he just runs his own race and not getting mixed up with any other drivers. And around Monaco, I think that's definitely a fair decision for him.
I'll tell you one driver who's grappling with his car all race at the moment, and that's Trasmike in 8th position. He's losing ground horribly to the cars ahead. Does he have damage, I wonder, Jackson? Because Hershey is all over the gearbox of the McLaren.
Yeah, it's a strange situation here as we see another position as that's Micheletto getting past Links. Has Links made a mistake? Has he got damage? It's going a bit slower here. Jake Marsh is all over the back of him. It looks like there may have been a mistake there from Links. I mean, it's not a part of the track where you would let someone through. Stays out another lap. But Links losing position there, and Micheletto on those medium tyres already making up quite a bit of ground. So that's certainly going to be someone to keep an eye on for the rest of this race.
So, as I thought, Trustmike has come into the pits and so is Hershey. So, did Hershey run into the rear? Or is he just changing tyres? He's actually just changing tyres, you know, is Hershey. So, Trustmike in for the mediums. I don't think they changed the front wing either. So, Trustmike feels that a set of medium tyres are the way to go. Or perhaps he's got the car set up wrong for this circuit.
Yeah, it's a strange one there, Trustmike. We've seen him so strong in previous races, so maybe he has some sort of issue in this race that we're unaware of. But yeah, something definitely doesn't seem right there with Trustmike, a driver who'd expect to see much further up the order, more where his teammate for today is. So yeah, but the top four here really starting to pull away, and Micheletto in 5th place. This shows you what's happened in esports when you put them on a track as tricky as Monaco, and the DRS does not have that effect like it did in Silverstone and Portimao. The field sort of spread throughout is so much bigger than we've seen at any previous racetrack this season. So I think this is really an interesting situation that I don't think we'll see often this season. I think most races will be a train of cars, or certainly groups of cars together. Whereas here it seems like I think the biggest group of cars is the 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Other than that, everyone seems to be spreading out nicely. So it's a different situation, these drivers who don't often have to deal with it. As Jonah is pushing Fruitful up the hill. Will he go for a move here on their way towards Casino Square? Not going to make it at this point, but that Haas driver looking like they've got the pace. They had strong qualifying pace, but just couldn't set any better laps at the end of the session. But at the moment, Jonah looking like he's really piling the pressure on Fruitful.
So Jonah not quite making the move work as Fruitful's in a Haas sandwich as we speak. Bottle came into the pits for the 2nd time already, and he's down a lap on the leaders. So he's got a lot of work to do, but he may as well keep going. You never know the tradition of which Monaco can bring, and that's like a lot of retirement. So if you keep your car in the race, there is a chance of you scoring points. Now Bottle, as far as this season is concerned, he has done both races. He's got 2 points already thanks to his 9th place finish in Silverstone 7 days ago. So you may as well keep going for the time being. But if a safety car comes out, then he's very much out of sync with the rest of the field. But it won't be too long before the leaders do start to pit in.
I think Lynx may have some damage here. He's lost 4.5 seconds to Micheletto there. There must be more to this as he does pull into the pits. I'm going to have a look now. Does he change the wing? Because that pace has not been strong from Lynx for the last few laps. So this is going to be an interesting one to see. Is there a front wing ready for him as they get into the pit stop? And no, doesn't look like it, but they do go to the hard tyres now. That'll safely take Lynx to the end of the race. But strange situation there. The Ferrari driver just seemed to be losing pace. Maybe these soft tyres aren't lasting as long as they would have been expected to.
Nicolizzi is also in the pits for Alpine, so he's had to change his front wing there. So that will drop him down to what is expected to be behind Davey in 13th. So Nicolizzi's left himself a lot of work to do, although having said that, and Cameron's out of the race, and he's in the pits actually, so probably a bit too energetic there with my response to that. But yeah, Cameron's race is over, unfortunately. No points for him. That's 2 races in a row that he's not finished for Cameron, so it's not been the start of the season of which he had hoped for. But of course there is Paul Ricard next week, of which he can look forward to. So the battle for 2nd place is hotting up as Brandenburg makes a mistake at Larascassi. He's pitting in.
Yep, the lead Haas driver in this race so far comes into the pits at the end of lap 7, I believe that is. So some earlier pit stops than we perhaps expected. Hershey's the first driver to get the penalty in this race. I doubt he will be the last. Of course, the strike. That's Jonah. Jonah has made it. Oh, they're wheel to wheel going up towards Casino Square, and that's a great move there from Jonah, who's got himself into 2nd place. It's not often you see overtakes around this circuit, but Jonah, he was putting the pressure on Fruitful before his teammate pitted, but looks like finally being able to capitalise on that pace advantage. Now up into 2nd place and 4.6 seconds off of the leader. So got some work to do if he wants to get back in the fight for the win, but it's certainly one position higher up on the road. And it's going to be interesting to see where this group of cars pit, because of course Van der Broek pitted slightly earlier, would get the undercut traditionally, but is going to get held up here by Chazza. So the strategy here is not as simple as pit early, get an undercut on the driver's ahead, because traffic is just so important. So let's see, can Van der Broek get past, and Chazza's going to let him pass. So that is some smart driving there from Chazza. Did not need to get involved with that battle. Van der Broek looks very happy with that, as he now has a chance to get himself past the 2 drivers who have stayed out an extra lap. But certainly with lost time there, as into the pits does come Fruitful and Jonah, and Micheletto up into 2nd place now because of those medium tyres.
Yep, so Jonah and Fruitful coming in. Fruitful stopping in his box before the Haas, considering where Ferrari finished in the Constructors' Championship. And a new front wing going on actually for Fruitful, so he's going to lose more time being in the pit than Jonah is. So you have to say, Brandenburg is most definitely going to go into second place now. Jonah rejoining effectively in third place. But remember, we've got drivers who are still yet to pit in, including Kart Racer, who seems to be dominating out in front.
Going to be interesting now to see the gap. Does that grow or does that gap fall from Kart Racer to Micheletto? Because those medium tyres now should be the quicker tyre to be on at this stage of the race. You've seen a lot of drivers pit off of those soft tyres already. Kart Racer and Jake Marsh, the only two drivers to still be out on their starting soft tyre. But yeah, the gap does seem to be coming down a little bit from Kart Racer to Micheletto. So medium tyres are quicker, but I don't think, unless there's some sort of safety car impact on this race as Jake Marsh gets a penalty, unless there's some sort of safety car when Micheletto needs to pit, it's probably not going to have that big of an effect on the race unless Micheletto goes for a different strategy to what we were expecting them to do.
Well, he's got some clear track ahead of him. He's got 5 seconds to make up on Kart Racer before he catches up to him, so Micheletto can actually start putting in some red hot laps here. He's not fighting with anyone on circuit at the moment, so the more he pushes and keeps his car out of trouble, the better it'll be for him later on in the race. And I expect him to go on to a one-stop. Marsh is in from what was third place. Medium's going on.
Oh, there's been a collision down at the chicane, I believe. Chazza's gone around down at the Nouvelle chicane. Sorry for interrupting you there. I believe Chazza may have had a little spin. May have clipped their rear wheel. Get there in the end. Their rear wheel going through the Nouvelle chicane on the Armco barrier. So Chazza, on those fresh, hard tyres, has lost quite a bit of ground from what looks to have been a spin down the Nouvelle chicane.
And I'll tell you something, Jake has actually managed to complete an overcut on links. So Jake now ahead of the Ferrari into what is 7th place. And now he's got free fall to catch up, I should say. Who's actually stuck behind Jasak, who's yet to stop.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation with Lynx. We sort of saw them struggling for pace before the pit stop. They didn't change their wings, so perhaps there was some damage on the car that for some reason Lynx chose not to repair, because surprising here is there's a battle going on for 5th place. Fruitful gets past Jasak. I believe Jasak may have let the Ferrari through. We've seen a lot of drivers playing it safer at Monaco, and it honestly doesn't surprise me. We see a lot of races around Monaco where drivers will just fight for every last centimetre of road, and that's often when the collisions happen. So some sensible driving here from the drivers who have yet to pit in this race.
Micheletto's got the gap down to 3.7 seconds between him and Kart Racer. So Micheletto absolutely flying in this one. Now in Portugal, he wasn't exactly on the pace in comparison to what he is here, but here on the streets of Monaco, it seems to be his kind of circuit so far. As Jasak, and it looks like, is that Jake Marsh in the wall? It is. Front wing gone on the Williams.
It's a shame there for the Williams driver, yet to score points this season now. Mistake has dropped him down at 10th place, and with no wings, surely he's going to drop even further down the order. But yeah, the Williams driver there with a mistake, and we said it's so easy to do at Monaco, and one of the early victims in this race will be Jake Marsh, who drops from a points-paying position down and surely will be out of the top 10 by quite a bit.
Jonah with a time penalty for track limits, so you'll have to live with that for the rest of this race and maximise the chances of a good finish. As Micheletto is actually closing now on Kart Racer rapidly now, so surely Kart Racer, you would think, if he wants to stay in the lead, in fact he won't be able to keep hold of the lead because Brandenburg is going to easily get in front of him.
Yeah, this is a strange situation here. As Jonah goes for the fast lap of the race now, perhaps that penalty he got on that lap may have gained him a little bit of lap time. But yeah, Kart Racer still staying out. I just have to imagine they're covering off the from the wear that the medium tyres will have towards the end of the race, because whilst they won't be in puncture territory, they will certainly be feeling the wear come the end of this race. So I think Kart Racer knows that he can't pit too soon here, and the later he pits, the better pace he'll have at the end of the race. So he knows he's got the gap, and he can sort of use this time now, whilst he's out in the lead, to manage that gap, manage the tyres, and I mean, they're giving us something to watch here as Micheletto carves into that race lead on the medium tyres. But I think it can't be long now until we see Kart Racer come into the pits.
So does he stay out another lap, or does he actually come in for his first pit stop? No, he's in. So Kart Racer in for his first pit stop. Micheletto goes into the lead.
Yep, the medium shod car there is going to keep it out on the racetrack. Be interesting now to see which lap they come in. There's all a bit of a slide through turn 1 there. But yeah, Micheletto trying a different strategy, the only driver in the top 10 to qualify on the medium tyres. As interestingly, Kart Racer has lost out to both Haas cars in the pit window. So yeah, staying out longer has cost Kart Racer here. But but I think now they're relying on the two Haas cars to pit again, which I don't think will be the case. I don't think the Haas cars will have to pit again in this race. You can pit very early at Monaco and make it to the end quite comfortably, so we could have an interesting battle for the lead, but Mercoletto out front is going to have to try and take these medium tyres as long as he can. Maybe going to go to softs at the end of this race, try and get some glory laps in, and maybe even catch up and get in the fight for the win. But as things stand, out front, but when he pits, probably going to come out around, I imagine, around sort of where Fruitful is at the moment. So, going to have some cars to pass if he wants to try and get up into a similar position as he is at the moment. But it's Monaco. It's hard to pass, but we have seen so far today, you can pass here. It's just not at all easy.
So Dave is just coming for his second new front wing, and he's shot behind Jake Marsh in 12th place now, so at least he's got a battle with on circuit, as Thunderberg, who is effectively the race leader, but Mercoletto is still in the lead on the road. But what tyres is he going to go on when he comes in for his pit stop? Will it be the softs or will it be the hards? Because he's got to use two different dry compounds in a dry race, remember, and we're only on that 14th.
Yeah, the situation Mercoletto is in at the moment is that take it sort of conservative, just get a solid position in this race, go to the hard tyres. You'll get probably a top 5 position and you'll safely make it to the end without any worries at all, and the hard tyres won't wear that much, so you don't need to worry about being vulnerable at the end. But going with that strategy, you're sort of locking yourself into at best really a top 5, no, not much more than that. However, pushing it long, going for the soft tyres at the end, whilst it's probably going to knock him a few positions further down when he pits, it could well give him that extra grip that could allow him to fight all the way up to the podium, maybe even the win come the end of this race, because we saw at the end of that first sort of stint when Kart Race was losing time to Mercoletto. Mercoletto has some good pace here, so he's definitely going to be in the fight for the win. It's just a question of which strategy he goes for later in the race, and I think the only way we'll find out is when he does eventually come to the pits. So it's exciting stuff here. A safety car though could change everything. Mercoletto could be forced into a certain strategy if a safety car came out at a certain time, so anything can happen here. But yeah, at the moment Mercoletto out on some clear air, and his pace certainly isn't that bad at the moment, given that his tyres are 7 laps more worn than Van der Brugge in second place.
So we've got a battle for 6th position as Trustmike is chasing Lynx. Lynx makes a mistake on Loris Castle, and Trustmike is doing to that position, and Lynx is into the pits actually.
Oh, Van der Brugge has crashed!
Yeah.
Up from a leading, a net race leading position there, second on the road, was going to be first after the pit stops, and Monaco has taken its first victim on track here, and that's a big crash there down at Casino Square. That is not a nice place to have a big crash out there, and that is heartbreak for the Haas driver, and wow, that's a dangerous part of the track to have a car parked on. So surprised that isn't a safety car, but you know, we said safety cars are very rare here in the game at Monaco, so whilst that probably would definitely be a safety car in real life, the game has decided not to throw a safety car on this occasion. But yeah, heartbreak there for the Haas driver, who was looking so strong. And that's, I mean, it's good news for those like Mercoletto, Jonah and Kart Racer, but still, that's a painful sight to see.
Yeah, so Thunderberg, I think what's happened is he's caught the inside barrier as he turned into the apex, coming through Casino Square, and he caught the inside barrier and that just threw him into the wall on the outside. So Thunderberg's race is over. It looks very good for the victory effectively, but it just wasn't to be today. So this is good news now actually for Kart Racing, because he's now within range of Jonah with the penalty that Jonah has, and once Mercoletto picks in, he's going to be behind both Jonah and Kart Racer, so probably will rejoin in 3rd place. We'll have to wait and see when he comes in for his pit stop.
Yeah, a crucial part of this race could well be penalties. Of course, Jonah already with that 3 second. Mercoletto, we don't know how close they are to a penalty, and with still, what, 23 laps left in this race. It could still be penalties for more drivers in this race, which could again change it. But, you know, Kart Racer, in the event he doesn't get a penalty, could just sit behind Jonah for the rest of the race. Take it easy. He knows he's got the pace to keep up with the Haas driver and stay within 3 seconds. He could just stay behind, take it easy. He knows he's got the win if he doesn't get a penalty. But equally, I think a lot of drivers, I think most drivers in that scenario would want to win the race on track, especially Kart Racer. He may be taking it easy, but it still doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. Even when you're taking it nice and calm, not pushing too hard, he could still end up with a penalty or maybe even damage. So he has to be smart in this situation. It really is a balancing act to make this work, but he is reeling in Jonah at the moment with fresher tyres. Mercoletto out front now by 10.8 seconds, but that gap is coming down again.
Mercoletto's gap is just under 11 seconds over Jonah. Now Fruitful in 4th place is 24 seconds behind Mercoletto. So it just depends on how much time Micheletto needs before he actually comes in for his pit stop. He's assured himself a fourth at the moment, but it's just he'll want to get out in front of Fruitful and chase after Jonah and Kart Racer for the victory. As he's coming up to a back marker, that is Davey in the Mercedes, who's had quite a torrid day so far in P11. And Link's in the pits again. He's only been in the pits a couple of laps ago in the Ferrari. Now, I would imagine he's going to go on to, this is probably an old set of mediums, I think that's going to go on his car. Or is that a new set? I think it may well be a new set, but it's a new front wing going on for Links. What a torrid day he is having as well.
Yeah, it's a shame. Showed some great pace early on, gained a lot of position early in the race, but just seems to have all gone wrong from there. Now down to 11th position, 12th actually now. Looks like they will hold that as Bottle is quite a way behind, a minute behind the next nearest car. Yeah, it's a shame there for Lynx, who's sort of had the chance to do something great today, but just not quite had the consistency lap over lap. And I think once you start to make mistakes around here, you lose that motivation to really put that full 100% focus in, and that's when you see drivers make one mistake, then another. So that, I think, is what's happening here. For Lynx is into the pits, comes Fruitful, his teammate, and Fruitful there, that's is that a surprise pit stop or is that an unexpected pit stop there from the Ferrari driver?
It was a front wing replacement, Jackson. He came in for a new front wing just as Lynx did, so Fruitful out of position then for the race victory, it seems. So that's good news for Micheletto when he comes in for his pit stop, as Fruitful rejoins. Does he rejoin just behind Micheletto? He does. So Fruitful's got a job in his hand to get in front. He's got better tyres on board now than the Alpine, but it's just so difficult to overtake on this circuit. You cannot afford to be losing time. He's so desperate to get in front though. He's got to just keep his composure intact. He doesn't try to do anything stupid here. Just Fruitful doesn't go for it into Lowe's hairpin. Micheletto runs wide. Fruitful's just trying to take a slightly different line to get a better exit speed as they come through the tunnel now. So Fruitful into the slipstream of the Alpine. Does he go for it into the new false chicane? I think he may as well go for it. Down the inside he comes. He goes for the move. Micheletto turns in on him though, and they both almost having to take evasive action. Now Fruitful will not like that one bit. He may well be aggrieved with Micheletto there, who did cut the corner there. It seemed that the new false chicane to keep hold of his 6th place.
It's a tough one. There was all big slap to the wall there for Fruitful. That may well be more wing damage for the Ferrari driver. And let's see, stays out. But yeah, Micheletto struggling on those old tyres, and is now ghosted, which has allowed Fruitful to just drive straight through him. Now that's painful there for the Alpine driver. Ghosting has just almost given that position away from him. But yeah, that is an interesting collision down at the chicane. We've seen that many a time in real life F1, where the driver on the outside there's nowhere to go. You have to cut the corner, and then it's a tricky situation down that chicane. It's just so tight. It's impossible to go too wide through there realistically. But yeah, Fruitful now up into 6th place. As into the pits again comes Lynx, and Lynx is now retired from the race. So it's a shame there for the Ferrari driver, but you know, sometimes it just isn't your day, and seems to be the case today for Lynx.
Yeah, it was bound to happen at some point. That was his 3rd pit stop in the space of 4 or 5 laps. So Lynx out of the Monaco Grand Prix, the 4th driver gone from this race. That was the 16 that started. Micheletto at half race distance, in the lead by over 7 seconds now, as Jonah and Kart Racer continue to close in. But I just wonder if Micheletto sets some strong pace on the mediums, goodness knows what it's going to be like for when he goes onto the softs later on. Yeah,
that is an interesting situation they find themselves in. But yeah, 6.2 second gap now. Micheletto is losing that lead so quickly at this point in the race, and you have to imagine a pit stop is imminent. However, if you want to go to the softs, we saw Kart Race do 13 laps on his set of soft tyres, so with a bit lighter fuel, maybe 12 laps would be the optimum length you'd want to go on them. But if you're going to be pushing hard at the end of this race to try and get those positions back, you can't really have much wear at the end of it. So I think we could well see Micheletto pitting around lap 29. So I think it's going to come down to what he's expecting the grip to be like. If he's expecting quite an easy job of passing these guys, which is, I mean, a surprising statement to say around Monaco, but if he's not expecting too much difficulty passing the guys, then he probably can pit a little bit earlier. But if it's going to be tricky getting past
it, he very nearly dropped it coming out of Casino Square, did Micheletto, but he caught it in time, but that was very nearly curtains for him.
Yeah, I mean, these medium tyres looking a bit like Kart Racer's tyres at the end of that first stint. So, wow, it's a tricky situation he finds himself in. maybe this is starting to make him think maybe I should just go for the hards, play it safe, not taking a risk, because Micheluzzi's lost position to Chazza there. As Micheluzzi's actually lost his entire front wing. So, very much tale of two stories here at the Alpine team, as Micheluzzi comes into the pits here, and is going to lose another position. So yeah, that's a tricky situation for the Alpine driver, and that's always spin. That's JTAC, who's gone around at the Nouvelle Chicane, going to cut back across onto the racetrack, and it's an easy place to just tap your rear tyre on entry, and you just go quickly around. There's no saving it. But yeah, that's JTAC losing a bit more time here, and perhaps going to lose out later in the race, because I mean 11th position. We've seen these cars dropping like flies at the moment. So definitely can't give up when you're in a position like 11th. But they are going to come into the pits. Oh, and around Micheluzzi. What's going wrong here for Micheluzzi? He's had an issue coming out of the pit lane.
Yeah, he caught the barrier thing on the inside and he resets the track as well. Now, the stewards, this is something that I totally despise when it comes to the reset to track rules, to be honest with you. If you reset to the track, I can understand why he used it, but sometimes you can gain an unfair advantage if you can see where I'm coming from, Jackson, with it. That's why I don't like the reset to track thing. But that's what Micheluzzi used to regain the right position on the circuit.
My only question there may be, was it the game doing it? Because I have seen on other pit lane exits on other circuits where it's a bit different to Monaco, the game will automatically reset you to the track as soon as you have sort of a moment or a spin in the pit exit. Now, I don't know if that's the case at Monaco, but I know certainly at tracks like Interlagos that is the case. If you have a spin coming out of that pit exit, it will automatically reset your track. I don't know, as I say, if that's the case at Monaco, but I mean, that may sort of be a reason for that, but equally it could have just been Micheluzzi. Some drivers just have that sort of instant reaction to go, okay, I've sort of spun around, quickly options, press X, reset to track, and it gets you going in the right direction again. So it could well be either. Either way, it's not a nice thing to see in racing, because it sort of takes away any inch of realism we have in this game. But yeah, Micheluzzi down in 10th place now, 1.8 seconds behind Davey. But with much better tyres, Micheletto, the gap is only 2 seconds between the top two.
So that just shows how much of an effect having new tyres on can do. Even Jonah's tyres are 8 laps fresher than Micheletto's. He's still gained so much time during the course of his second stint to catch up to the Alpine, who is only 1.8 seconds in front. He'll stay ahead for the time. Oh no, he's got a penalty for riding the chicane to, well, not within the limits of the chicane, and he's got himself a 3-second time penalty for that as he makes his way. I thought he cut the chicane there, but that was a glitch at my end. But Micheletto starting to feel the pressure at the moment on his warm mediums. Yeah,
at this point he knows that the thing is, the top three are the only drivers that are only remotely close to this battle of the win. At this point in the race, Micheletto, if he can stay ahead and hold up Jonah and Kart Racer when he's in the lead, he can just pit as late as he wants, realistically. As long as he can stay ahead, he can just hold up these two and just hope that when he does eventually pit, he'll have the pace to catch back up to them, which is not going to be easy. But I mean, we've seen the issues that Micheletto's having here. If he goes to soft tyres and these guys are struggling on the mediums like Micheletto is now, it could well very much be a scenario where he can catch enough to potentially win this race still. But on penalties, Kart Racer really now is in the best position with no penalty yet in this race. But we still have another 15 laps left in this race, so that could very much change.
Just watching a battle between Davey and Micheluzzi for ninth as they come out of Portier, and through the tunnel they come. I think Micheluzzi's going to go for a move on Davey. He's on the better tyres. Is he close enough to have a go? Goes to the outside. Does Davey leave enough space? He does. Thankfully no collision. Davey cuts the corner. He gets a penalty for corner cutting, and he should surely let Micheluzzi through, and he does so.
Yeah. I think the fact that he let him through there will allow him to remove that penalty. But I'm not sure how much of an effect that penalty may well have at the end of this race with the gaps we're seeing further down the order at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It was a bit of a tap with the wall there for Micheluzzi. Coming out of the chicane, coming out of Raskas, sorry. But yeah, it's close up for the front here. Jonah just 2 tenths behind as they make their way through this part of the lap. That's not a part of the track where we usually see cars this close. The top 3 within a second here at Monaco. Wow, this is intense racing up at the front. Jonah realistically needs to make this move now so that they don't lose too much time, because if they can pull a bit of a gap to Micheletto, it makes his life much, much harder at the end of this race trying to catch up. Because as things stand, Micheletto is still very much in the fight with the fresher tyres at the end. but it could well all change here. Kart Racer and Jonah are putting the pressure on. Jonah is pushing hard to go for the move into the chicane now. But equally, Micheletto using all of his battery and all the power he has available to him to get into that chicane and maintain lead of this race. Kart Racer, I think he's quite happy watching at the moment.
So whilst we've got a battle for the lead, we're just watching Trasmike and Hershey fight over 4th place. Now Hershey has a time penalty of 3 seconds, which would at the moment drop him behind Fruitful, who had to pit in for that nose change, remember. He's flying on the medium compound he's on. So it won't be too long before he gets onto the rear of both the McLaren and the Aston Martin. As we begin lap 26, we're at 2/3 race distance. Micheletto still holding up Jonah and Kart Racer. I reckon he'll do this for another 3 laps before he chooses to pit in for the softs, because he's guaranteed himself a net 3rd place here as Micheletto when he comes out of the pits on the soft compound. So the longer he holds up these two, the better, but he doesn't want to be leaving it too late.
Really got nothing to lose in this scenario. He knows that he's still got a good pace advantage over that driver in 4th because their tyres aren't much better. So Micheletto in this situation really just needs to focus on holding these guys up, because this is going to be perhaps the moment of truth now. Jonah on the back of Micheletto as they go through the tunnel now, heading towards the Nouvelle chicane. Micheletto will defend the inside line, but Jonah will find gap. They will go into the chicane, perhaps banging wheels. Micheletto, though, holds on so low on the brakes, but makes it work here. As we see a change of position further down the order. Hershey has lost position to Fruitful. So Fruitful making up some positions here with much fresher tyres on that Ferrari.
So a fantastic move there by Fruitful. Just shows she can actually overtake in Monaco. So we may well be eating our words at the moment. Micheletto coming round Anthony Nose, still in the lead. Jonah and Kart Racer have got DRS, but that won't be too much of an advantage for them. Micheletto stays in front for now. I suppose as soon as Jonah and Kart Racer get in front, it's just that'll prompt Micheletto to just come into the pits.
Was a bit of a moment there from Jonah I just saw coming up to the top of the hill. But yeah, I think as you say, as soon as Micheletto gets past, if he gets past at this point in the race, he will probably react immediately in pit, knowing that he's done his best job and he has to now try and see if he can catch up from that point on, because once those two get ahead, their pace is going to be much better than his is. You can clearly see by the amount that Jonah is pressuring Micheletto at this point. But, I mean, I think we could all be starting to see Jonah and Kart Racer's tyres getting to that, well, definitely Jonah's, perhaps not Kart Racer's, but Jonah's tyres perhaps getting to the stage where they're not that much better than Micheletto in the lead. And I think on that lap we saw that Jonah was just not that close at all to Micheletto going into the Nouvelle chicane, given the last couple of times they've been basically battling as Hershey comes into the pits there. In 7th position. Will they lose out the position to Jake? I don't believe so. They will come out ahead of the Williams driver. Via Hershey dropping down 7th on fresh medium tyres now. Going to try and bounce back up and make some overtakes back up the order here. But yeah, pit strategy. We tried to have any guesses as a 10-second time penalty for Davey. I believe. Oh, is he in the wall?
He's crashed into the wall.
Something's gone wrong there for Davey. Missed the Nouvelle chicane entirely, and now into the barriers at Raskas.
He lost his front wing beforehand, hence why he got that penalty. Within parts there, is that going to bring out the VSC or the safety car? It may well do, as the McLaren and the Ferrari gets past him without an incident, but Davis' race has ended in the barrier and he joins the list of retirements. And I think it may be a question about driving standards, because he got that penalty for overshooting the chicane. He lost his front wing earlier on, and he pretty much avoidably crashed into the barrier at the back there because he went way too quick into that particular bend. But thankfully that has not caused a safety car situation.
Surprised to see Jonah not looking for the move on this lap. Maybe look up the inside. No, not quite. But looked like they had the a close enough gap to Micheletto, as Micheletto see the tyres sliding on exit here. I think we could. I doubt we're far away now from a pit stop for the Alpine in the lead of the race. Yeah, Kart Racer. I think he's very much enjoying this. He's just enjoying the view. He's got a nice little battle going up and ahead of him. He's got no penalty, so he can just sort of maintain position. Micheletto not able to pit yet. And I'm starting to think Micheletto's got to be careful when he does eventually pit in this race, because how close Jonah is to the back through that final couple of corners. When Micheletto presses the brake to turn right into the pit entry, Jonah could well be so close to the back of the Alpine that he hits the back and perhaps even damages his wings. So interesting situation here as to maybe even who would come out at fault for that scenario. So another aspect to look at here is Micheletto actually getting to the pit lane, so that could be a chance Kart Racer could have at the race lead if Jonah does get caught up behind the Alpine driver. But yeah, Kart Racer, as I said, just watching this battle unfold in front of him.
So we're watching the top three separated by just under a second as they come through Portier. Can Jonah get a run on the Alpine? The answer is no. We can't quite get the exit he's looking for as Fruitful gets a time penalty now. That'll play into Trustmike's hands. Also, these two have been fighting as they make their way through Casino Square. Fruitful on the inside. Trustmike tries to shut the door on him, which he does so. As Fruitful will be back from White's crucially gets past him. He's on the better tyres, is Fruitful than Trustmike. 13 laps fresher mediums in comparison to the McLaren. As Jake into the pits for a set of soft tyres. I suppose he may as well do that because now he can go for the fastest lap if he wants to.
Yeah, indeed, that's a chance for some extra points in this race. Is there are nose changes as well? I can't see because the Aston Martin safety car is in the way. But yes, it looks like that. Yes, a nose change as well for Jake. I believe he may well hold that position to Michelizzi, and with fresher tyres should be able to pull away again. But the gap at the front is narrowing. One thing I am keeping my eye on now, and maybe I'm mad, but I think the clouds are getting a bit darker above the track. The lights are on around the circuit. This is perhaps there's another aspect of why Micheletto is staying out this long in the race.
So yeah, that could explain it actually. It's a very, very good point. So Micheletto staying out as long as he can. You can see how much those tyres have drained, and just keep an eye out on the top of the halos, Jackson, because that's when obviously if the rain does hit, then you'll see it stream along the halo. That gives you the indication straight away that it's raining on circuit. Fruitful into the pits for Ferrari, and I wonder if he had a new nose cone fitted on.
I'm not sure. They definitely lost a position or two actually, so I have to imagine if he was going to do that, that would be why, as Hershey puts in the fast lap there at 110.9. But yeah, we've got a nice battle. Jake actually went to the medium tyres in the end, but with Hershey setting the fast lap on fresh mediums, I imagine Jake could well do the same here. But look how close this top three is, and Micheletto staying out again. I think this is going to be hope for some rain coming late in this race with Micheletto at this point now, because given that they're pretty much locked themselves onto the podium, as long as they do, of course, make a pit stop, it's looking like Micheletto is just going to gamble here and try and win the race that way.
Yeah, well, he's not going to win it at the moment because he has a penalty to his name. Jonah has as well, but Kart Racer does not. So he'll have to hope Kart Racer gets a penalty of his own, diving to the inside almost on Jonah, but can't quite make the move stick.
Yeah, so close, coming down out of Casino Square there. Kart Racer just has such an advantage at this point over both Jonah and Micheletto. I think Jonah's tyres are starting to struggle quite a bit as well, obviously not to the extent of Micheletto's are, but still I don't think it's as comfortable as it's perhaps looking at the moment for either of the top two, as Kart Racer is definitely now becoming the driver with the best tyres out of the top three. And I think, you know, with the penalty situation, Kart Racer can just afford to sit behind and play safe, but as soon as Jonah starts to drop back from Micheletto, that's when Kart Racer has to pounce, because can't risk losing that precious time to our race leader.
So we've got three drivers not on time penalties at the moment. Kart Racer in third, Trustmike in fourth, and Michelizzi in ninth place, as Jonah wobbling around. He's just let the McLaren through. Has he got a problem, I wonder, has Jonah? Because he's just let the McLaren go by. Did he let him through, maybe, just in case he can have an attack at Micheletto and take advantage of it?
I think Jonah knew that he wasn't going to get that position on penalty either way, and with the tyres starting to die as well, I think Jonah's now realised that, yeah, my best chance here is if Kart Racer gets ahead of Micheletto, I could maybe follow him through and try and pounce then, because we've seen, I mean, Jonah's had plenty of laps now to make the move on Micheletto, just can't find a way past the Alpine. Kart Racer immediately onto the back of the Alpine driver, and now a massive difference in tyre compounds here. 12 laps fresher are the mediums on Kart Racer's car, so really having to push these tyres harder than perhaps expected at this stage of the race. Jonah just lost out a little bit behind Micheletto, not able to make the move, and just reminds us of how hard it's to overtake at Monaco. But Jonah perhaps with issues like you suggested there. I think Jonah must have wing damage, because look at the pace they're going now. They are losing a lot of time here.
He's losing a hell of a lot of time. He's dropped back horribly from the top two on this lap. Micheletto is finally in, and I think he's giving up the fight here. He knows. I think even if the rain was to come down, I don't think it's going to be enough for the drivers to go on to the intermediate stand. It looks like Bottle's gone for a spin at lows. His car's ghosted anyway, so no problem there, and he's carrying on his way in 11th position.
Strange one there, backwards going into the hairpin. That's not something you see very often. I have to imagine maybe he tapped the rear left on exit of Mirabeau, maybe that spun the car around and then sort of rolled down the hill backwards. Strange one there. I have a feeling Micheletto's probably going to be the driver that walks away with the fastest lap in this race here. Third position, pretty much secured, and still a massive gap down to fourth place. It's a impressive drive here from Micheletto to go that long on the mediums. And now Micheletto's just got, what, 6 laps to try and reel in a 15-second gap. I mean, it's not impossible if Jonah does have some damage that could potentially happen. But it's I think it's fair to say quite unlikely that Micheletto can improve his position here.
Well, Brutal with a new fast stop at the moment. He's closing on 6th place Chazza as they begin their lap. Bottle in the pits for Alfa Romeo. Does he decide to carry on, or does he call it quits now? He may as well decide to carry on because he's one position away from a points position, and if he gets into the points, he may even just snatch the fastest lap. Although Micheletto is aiming for that same target, so it's probably unlikely that Bottle will start into the pits again for the fastest, but we'll see as the laps continue to run down. Micheletto will begin this lap. I think he's already gained over 2 seconds on Jonah on this lap alone, if not more than that, as Fruitful gets past Chazza.
Yeah, the hard tire runner of Chaz, I don't think he saw any reason to fight that one. He knew that pass was happening. Fruitful up into 6th place, and I must say, this sort of driving conduct, this sort of almost like it's a gentleman's agreement to not fight each other too hard, and it's obviously not great as for us commentators not being able to see as many battles, but it's really sort of, it's nice to see this respectful racing from these guys, knowing that they can't fight certain moves, knowing that they're only hurting themselves by defending on a driver that's clearly quicker. As Hershey comes into the pits once more for again a new wing. So yeah, it's nice to see these guys playing it sort of smart in their battles, and I mean, I hope this continues throughout the season, because, you know, when you've got a group of drivers that are sort of this sort of racing intelligently, it will mean that we have much cleaner races and much sort of more entertaining races on the track, so you can overtake. If these guys have this respect for each other, it will lead to better battles later in the season.
Hershey's come back out on another set of softs, so he'll also be one of those going for the fastest lap. As Micheletto rounds the last corner now, he's 8 seconds behind Jonah at the moment, so he's gained at least, what was it, 3 to 4 seconds on this lap alone, and he's now got the fastest lap of the race.
I think that was 4 seconds gained on that last lap of the race. I said that it would be maybe a bit of a push for Micheletto to get up into 2nd place here. But, you know, if he keeps up this pace, he's going to have a couple attempts to make the move on Jonah, who is clearly struggling. 8.2 seconds behind Kart Racer. Jonah must have broken their front wing there. And they now find themselves in a very tricky position where they may even lose 2nd place. So that gap is rapidly falling, and Micheletto could well still get a 2nd place away from this race, despite seemingly dropping down to 3rd by quite a margin.
Yeah, I think Jonah's definitely got front wing damage. If not front wing damage, maybe a damage of some sort, because he's now 9 seconds behind Kart Racer. So Micheletto's coming out like a shark, isn't he? Quite
yeah, well, yeah, a shark at Monaco. I don't know if they have sharks in the water of Monaco, actually, to be honest. Quite possibly they do. But yeah, look at the gap again, coming down by 4 seconds on this last lap, maybe even more. Micheletto is in theory going to be on the back of Jonah by the end of the next lap, so I think this is going to be an exciting little battle to watch on. Interesting thing now is, will Jonah fight this position? We've seen that was said just a few moments ago about respectful racing, how drivers will let each other through. For 2nd place, Jonah's chances of defending that position are quite unlikely, but will he fight it hard? Will he fight it for his life? Or will he sort of say, okay, fair enough, I've got damage, you've got the fresher tyres, there's no point me fighting this, I'm just risking myself more damage, which could perhaps take me out of the race or drop me off the podium. Here you go, Micheletto. Or is it going to be a proper little scrap here for the 2nd position? So what do you think is going to happen here?
I think what might happen actually is that Jonah will duck into the pits to get a set of soft tyres on and go for the fastest lap. That's my prediction, I think, with Jonah. So Micheletto's going to be all over the back of him. I think he might send him off for a lap or so and then decide to pit in at the end of lap 37. So
that's definitely a good shout here. Yeah, that's something that I hadn't thought of, to be honest. But yeah, Jonah could well get involved in this battle for the fastest lap.
So if they come through Larascas, what does Jonah decide to do here? He decides to carry on, and that's fair enough, because he can afford to do another lap before he makes his decision as to when to pit in. Micheletto into the DRS range, round the outside into Sandefort, can't quite make the move. Stakey tries to complete a switchback coming out of Sandefort, up the hill through Massenet, and then we'll come up towards Casino Square, and it doesn't look as though that Micheletto is quite going for it at the moment. Jonah will try and hold him up for as long as he can, but he's on the inside. It's Micheletto into Mirabeau, and he's through into 2nd place. Nicely done.
Yeah, nice sort of patience there shown by Micheletto. He could have sent it going up the hill and kept his nose in, but I think he knew, you know, he had the pace advantage, had the downforce advantage. So showed some patience, got himself up into that second place, and a nice, clean, sensible move. And I think it'll be interesting now. I believe Jonah probably will pit now fast lap, like you say. So let's wait and see what the Haas driver of Jonah does. Still a nearly 30-second gap behind to Trasmike, so should safely be able to come out ahead of the McLaren driver. But saying that, with the wing change, could that potentially be a longer pit stop? I'm not sure how long that would end up being, but maybe it could be close. It's interesting. Maybe Jonah will play it safe and just keep it on the road track, knowing that they've got a big enough gap behind. Or they pit, they're going to pit. So I guess now we're going to find out how long a pit stop is here at Monaco when you change your front wing.
So he's got over 28 seconds in hand on Trasmike, so it just depends how quick the Haas crew will be when it comes to completing this pit stop. Trasmike's coming through the swimming pool chicanes now. I think Jonah may just get out in front. He's out of his box now, and Trasmike I think is too far behind, so Jonah will keep hold of his third place, no problem.
Yeah, surprisingly short pit lane here at Monaco. That's a very quick pit stop there from the Haas team. Let's look at what the gap is. Going through turn 1, 5-second gap between the pair of them, or 4.5. So only really, what, a 23.5-second pit stop there for Jonah, despite changing their wing. So yeah, a very short pit lane here at Monaco. Clearly, I imagine, yeah, it does cut out the final corner, and again, yeah, it is an incredibly short pit lane here at Monaco. Just looking at it on the mini map, you can see that. But interesting to see Jonah in third, going to go for that fast lap. We now have a good little battle going on for the fast lap, but Micheletto is going to reel in the race leader a little bit, of course. Now the final lap is underway, not going to have the time to reel in Kart Racer, but potentially could get within 10 seconds here of Kart Racer, so maybe we could say someone was close to Kart Racer today. But yeah, again, Kart Racer looks like he's set to win another race by quite a healthy margin.
Just seeing Trasmike and Fruitful fighting over 4th place. Trasmike does not have a penalty, Fruitful does, but I'm sure Fruitful will want to try and finish ahead of him on the road at least. Makes a bit of contact through the swimming pool chicane. So Fruitful's last chance, I think, is probably going to be on the start-finish straight, but we've seen overtakes done elsewhere on the circuit other than San Defart, so we'll see how Fruitful gets on here into the slipstream with DRS open. As they come towards San Defart, Trasmike leaves enough room, the two make contact, and I think Fruitful will have to surrender on that one, but I'll leave you to watch the race leader complete the final lap, Jackson.
Yeah, Kart Race now coming through the swim pool section, now into Rasgas. It's been a brilliant performance here from the McLaren driver. Started on pole, held the lead. He didn't have much of a fight early on, but he had to fight his way back through a couple cars. Kart Racer wins on the streets of Monaco here, taking a dominant performance in the streets of Monte Carlo. Micheletto in second place, a late recovery, and a strong drive as he crashes across the line quite heavily, actually, with Jonah in third position. Still got the final lap to go. Just that's how big the gap was for the top two here. Jonah making his way on the exit of the swim pool section towards Rasgas, as Jake Marsh now's at fastest lap of the race, but Jonah could well beat that one. Coming through the final corner now as Fruitful gets a penalty. Jonah will get a podium here in Monte Carlo, and that's a strong performance, and he does take the fast lap of the race, the only driver to get into the 109.730. Very impressive pace shown by Jonah, and shows what perhaps could have been with a bit more luck on his side in this race. Trasmike will get 4th place after some early struggles and a poor qualifying. Fruitful will get 5th in this race here, losing his entire wing on that last lap somehow, so that battle seems to have heated up a little bit on the final lap. With Chazza 6th, Hershey is going to come across the line in 7th place now, avoiding some of the debris that's left on the main straight. Jake Marsh will be our next finisher. Has already finished a lap down in this race, so only 7 drivers finishing this race on the lead lap. And I think that just goes to show how quick our sort of top 3 were in that race. Those guys were in a league of their own at points in this race.
It was absolutely fascinating to watch those try and complete undercuts on those ahead. We've seen the difference of how putting new tyres can help you in the long run in the race, and we saw more overtaking in that one than we thought we would be seeing during the course of tonight. So it's been a fantastic race, better than I thought it would be. I did fear it was going to be a procession of a race, but not a bit of it. We've seen a cracker of an event here in Monaco, despite only 11 cars finishing today's race. Kart Racer, with that victory, extends his lead at the top of the championship, and the gap, I believe now, is a comfortable 20 points over the others.
Yeah, just really class drive there today from Kart Racer. brilliant performance. He played it. No one else that I could remember seeing did that same strategy. That late pit stop on the soft, from the softs to the mediums. It meant that yes, he lost some time in the first stint, but he gained so much back in the second stint and really timed that pit stop to perfection there. Micheletto, I mean, brilliant recovery there. And an interesting sort of split strategy there for Micheletto. Again, another driver that did something different, and it paid off here, getting second place. Jonah, one of the drivers that went with a more conventional race strategy and managed to get third place. Maybe that would have been second place without the damage late on, but still an impressive drive onto the podium for the Haas driver. Traz might get fourth place, the reserve again putting in an excellent drive. Fruitful in fifth place there with Chazza in sixth. Then it's Hershey in seventh, Jake Marsh in eighth, Micheluzzi in ninth, and it's Ekos Jasak who rounds out to the top 10 here after what was quite an eventful Monaco race, which is not something you can say for every Monaco race.
No, definitely not. 2 wins out of 3 4-kart races. He's looking as though he's carrying on his form from where he was in F8 last season that he dominated. And he's continuing to really enjoy himself in the PSGL. And can he carry that form into Paul Ricard next week? Jackson, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a brilliant race of which we've watched around the streets of Monaco. First time since season 27 that the PSGL has raced there, but it was very much worth the wait. And we look to do it all again in the French region of Le Castellet at Paul Ricard. Thank you to all those who have watched. Make sure you do like and subscribe to the PSGL channel in case you haven't already done so. And we'll see you again next week. I'm Tom Cairns, he's Jackson, and I'll speak to you again soon when the PSGL